What's going on, and welcome back to Legion Preparedness. And in this video we're going to be doing a comparison of a couple of different Cry Precision plate carriers, to include the Cry Precision SPC or the Airlight with the ESAPI plates configuration, as well as the JPC 2.0 and the AVS. Now, the intent behind this video is to kind of highlight the pros and cons of each plate carrier and where they do well, and kind of the benefits of the differences in between them all, but then also highlight where I believe the SPC really beats both the JPC and the AVS and takes their product line to a whole nother level. So with that, I will highlight some huge failure points that I have seen on the JPC and the AVS. So when we go through all of this, we'll go with the JPC first, the AVS second, and then the Cry Precision SPC finally, or at the end, so that way you can kind of see failures, and then where the new product kind of makes up with things, minus kind of the few things that you do lose with the newer systems that's out there. So with that, kicking it off with the Cry Precision JPC 2.0. So overall setup and configuration is very simple and straightforward. You have a front plate bag, rear plate bag, and then you can run multiple different cummerbunds, from 3 to 2 strand cummerbunds, as well as some other aftermarket stuff that's out there. There are some elastic ones that you can run with this that are from Cry Precision, but it doesn't really do too well with some of the other aftermarket elastic cummerbunds that are out there. So they do have their own little proprietary version. With that, when it comes to the front of the plate carrier, you do have all of your standard MOLLE. You do have these little loops right here to be able to integrate buckles to have magazine panels that just buckle straight in, so it allows for the ability to swap magazine panels in and out a lot faster. And then you do have the traditional setup where you can run one of the either MOLLE or magazine panels from Cry Precision. You take the little Velcro straps and run them through the top portion of this MOLLE section right here into this Velcro pocket where everything is secured and locked into place. When it comes to the setup of this, you do have to be kind of careful about it. I would recommend running a piece of cardboard in there when you're running that Velcro or those Velcro straps into this pocket. It helps with the installation and making sure that everything is right where it needs to be, and prevents the Velcro from sticking to itself and sticking to the inside pocket before you get those points or those straps exactly in the points that you want them. So just something to be cognizant of when it comes to the setup piece. For the cummerbund though, for most of the Cry Precision JPC 2.0 cummerbunds, you do have these nice little handles that help don and doff the plate carrier and the cummerbund. For the 2.0 cummerbund compared to the 1.0 cummerbund, the cummerbund itself is only a single MOLLE slot system. So when you're setting up all of your MOLLE on the cummerbund itself, the old, and I believe it's still even with the AVS plate carrier cummerbund, there is actually a grease, it kind of looks like carbon fiber, divider that runs through each strand of the MOLLE cummerbund that divides it to an interior and exterior kind of MOLLE configuration. So you can run both interior pouches and exterior pouches on that cummerbund. This new 2.0 plate carrier does not have it. You can still purchase the AVS cummerbund that still has it and integrate it into this one, but it is something to be cognizant of when you're assembling this whole plate carrier on their website. Make sure you're purchasing the components that will kind of give you more of an edge or enhance the plate carrier itself. So, but I believe this cummerbund comes with the plate carrier, so it is something you can kind of work around, but it can be a little tight if you're trying to fit MOLLE straps through a single section of MOLLE. But with that kind of closes out at least the portions that I want to talk about for the front of the plate carrier and the plate bag, minus one of the big failure points. But before I get into that, one nice thing about the JPC is you do also have this small little administrative pocket that you can throw up front, or that's up front on the plate carrier, that you can throw a lot of different things in here, for shotguns and shotgun rounds to mission cards and administrative stuff and data, pens, pencils, paper, all that stuff. You can throw a lot of that in there. For the longest time, I pretty much ran this specifically just for shotgun breaching, and there was a little elastic Velcro shell holder that I would run horizontally in the pouch, and it would hold all of my shotgun rounds at the top of the plate carrier. So really cool feature. I do like the fact that there is that pocket up here at the top to be able to store a few items when it comes down to it. But when it comes to failure points, and this is a failure point that the AVS also shares when it comes to the stitching and setup of these plate bags and how they're configured compared to the SPC. When you're looking at the shoulder straps, you're going to notice that they're stitched in right here on the plate bag, and they don't go that far into the actual plate carrier itself, and there isn't really kind of like a double stitched system to reinforce these shoulder straps that I've been able to notice. There's little things like right here at the bottom and then right here that do, but it's really only that two little sections right here that kind of reinforce it, rather than being something that goes all the way up the sides of these shoulder straps. Because of that, I have seen both the JPC 1.0, 2.0, and the AVS blow out their shoulder straps where this thing completely falls off a dude's body. So definitely be careful about that when looking at these plate carriers, and just understanding that it is a failure point. If you are running and gunning and really, doing a lot of work with these plate carriers, they can fail you, and they can fail right there in that area. So just something to be cognizant of when it comes down to it. With that, compared to the SPC, when you're looking at the kind of overall stitching, when you're looking at the interior of these plate bags, you have a lot of stitching in a lot of places. You have stitching in the shoulder straps. You have stitching for this little elastic section that connects to the front portion of the plate bag. You have this center portion right here, and it goes all the way around. So there's a lot of stitching when it comes down to it. The more I dig into gear and the more that I find equipment that is a little more streamlined and a little bit more robust and has fewer or reduced failure points, you definitely got to look at like the stitching and how things are set up when it comes down to it. It is 100% a nitpicking thing when it comes down to it, but the fewer lines that are sewn into the plate carrier, I've noticed the plate carrier is a little bit more reliable, and that is something that I'll get into with the SPC, and where I think this plate carrier definitely beats the JPC 2.0 because there are very, very few sewn points on this plate carrier. So, but that kind of sums up the front of the plate carrier at that point. So at this point, so moving on around to the back side of the plate carrier, and this is kind of a pro that's carried in between every single one of Cry Precision's plate carriers when it comes down to it. Pretty much every single one of their plate carriers is going to have a back plate pocket that is zipper, or has zippers integrated into it to be able to integrate different types of zipper panels. When it comes to these zipper panels, to show you two of them, we've got the Molly one, and then we have the big like pocket one that they have on their website. Cool thing with both of these is they both have a large pocket on the back side. And this one is a little bit different. Actually, it's really not, but you have the large pocket, open pocket, to be able to throw tools and large items, hydration bladders, and then this will actually extend. You can see here at the bottom, this will actually pull out and extend to be able to store different types of breaching or manual breaching tools. So both the Molly version and this large pocket version have it. When it comes to selecting these panels, I would recommend going with the Molly systems, just because with these Molly systems, you have the ability to adapt your plate carrier and the back panel specific to your mission versus having something that's just one large open pocket. As nice as this is, and you have a lot of space to be able to just throw a bunch of stuff in there, you're kind of stuck with just the one big pocket. Where with this Molly system, you can have one large pocket that's vertical, maybe a large pocket that is horizontal in place of the vertical one, and then you have a small GP pouch up top. You can throw flashbangs and other equipment and all sorts of stuff when it comes to these panels compared to the large pockets. So in my opinion, the Molly ones are a lot nicer because of the adaptability capability. Yes, yeah, the adaptability and how much you can adapt the system specific to your mission set and completely custom configure it all. compared to just the open pocket. So lost my train of thought on that a little bit, but I think you get the point that you can do a lot more with this MOLLE system versus just the big pocket. To kind of reiterate the point too, with these MOLLE ones, I've been able to set up stuff for CBurn with pappers or a powered air purifier system. I've done stuff with just breaching stuff on the back of these. I've done stuff with just general purpose stuff. So a lot more adaptable, less adaptable, a lot more space, but less adaptable when it comes down to it. And the organization piece of this with the smaller pouches is a lot nicer compared to just throwing everything in one big bag. So, but all of these panels will work on all of these plate carriers, the MOLLE ones, the pocketed ones, so on and so forth. They will all zip on. All of the zippers are all the same. So that is a pro for every single one of the plate carriers when it comes down to it. When it comes to side plate pockets, kind of going off on a little bit here because I kind of worked my way around a little too fast. For the side plate pockets, some pockets work better with certain systems than others. I know that these ones right here, they're essentially Velcro MOLLE straps that run through the 3-strand cummerbund. These work really well with the JPC and the AVS, but they don't, from what I've noticed, don't work as well with the SPC plate carrier. But I haven't really worked with them a whole lot when it comes down to it, because what this plate carrier is going to end up being is for law enforcement, and they're just using soft body for the sides. They aren't using hard plates for the sides. So something to be cognizant of when it comes down to it. But you can run side plates on every single one of these plate carriers. The SPC one is just the one that I don't have as much information on, and what product is the best one for that right off the bat. So with that, another cool thing with the JPC 2.0 is you do have these cutaway straps up at the top. So if you need to cut away your plate carrier, you just essentially run the Velcro strap to the back, Velcro everything together, and then run that cutaway harness piece back to the front. And then when you need to cut away, you just pull hard on this. It'll pull essentially your shoulder straps apart, and then it just falls right off your body. You do have to be careful about what shoulder strap pads you might want to throw on here, because it can inhibit the ability of the plate carrier to cut away, depending on which ones you go with. So just something to be cognizant of. Real quick too, when it comes to the configuration of the cummerbunds on the JPC and on the AVS, I will say that it is a little bit easier to configure the cummerbunds on these two plate carriers versus the cummerbund on the SPC. I felt this one was a little bit more involved just because of the way everything is set up. It still went together fairly easily with the SPC, but these ones were definitely a lot easier to set up and configure overall when it comes down to it. So there is an aspect of simplicity with the JPC 2.0 and the AVS when it comes to cummerbund integration. With that, with the JPC 2.0 and the AVS, you do also have this drag handle at the top of the plate carrier. This one just Velcros in. This one is just free floating. So when it comes to being able to drag a dude out, that you do have that capability. The SPC doesn't have that when it comes down to it. So you do lose that drag handle with the newer plate carrier, but I think it's an acceptable loss when it comes down to it. So that kind of concludes essentially everything for the JPC 2.0. So I'm going to throw this off to the side and then get into the AVS. So when it comes to the AVS, I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan. I honestly kind of hate this plate carrier. I've used it for many years. It is a very good plate carrier. I will give it that. There is a lot of modifications that you can do with this plate carrier. And one thing that I'll say, and I'm going to get a lot more involved or a lot more in depth with this in the future or in the later portions of the video, the JPC 2.0 and the AVS are definitely more over full mission profile plate carrier configurations. The SPC has a much broader range to where you can, if done correctly, depending on the plates that you're purchasing and the soft body you might have to wear, you can set up the SPC to be somewhat concealable for more low vis, low profile concealment, whatever, covert, clandestine mission sets and all of that. And then you can scale it all the way up to a full mission profile, and I jokingly call it like the conventional and SWAT configuration, because they're running the DAPS, the neck protector, the groin protector, and the back protector. You know, some of those organizations' policies, they require it. I think it's a little excessive. That's just my personal opinion. But if you need that capability and you need a plate carrier that has all of that, you can do it with this system, and then go back all the way down to that low profile, low vis configuration, where the JPC 2.0 and the AVS, you're pretty much locked into that more overt configuration, as well as the full mission profile kind of configuration. So just something to be cognizant of. Sorry, I keep repeating that word, but it is something that I do think is a very, very unique point about the SPC versus the JPC 2.0 and the AVS. But when it comes to the overall configuration for the AVS, there are actually multiple different plate bags that you can purchase. And you can also purchase the harness system to run inside of the plate carrier. The nice thing about this is it does feel like it, you know, distributes the weight of the plate carrier a lot better, a lot more comfortably. However, it adds a lot of bulk to the plate carrier, and that is one thing that I do not like about the AVS. Every AVS that I've ran in the past, I have stripped it down to the bare bones to run it almost as close to a JPC as possible. And there is a way that you can get it as close to a JPC as possible with the, I want to say it's kind of the swimmer cut plate bags. I know you can fit the SAPI plates or just the SAPI plates inside of them. So that will work. It is a tight fit, and it will kind of configure the the AVS plate carrier in more of a JPC configuration, but you still have the same failure points with that, or with the AVS plate carrier, regardless of the plate bag. So with that, when it comes to this harness, it is a very involved system. If you want to integrate this into the plate carrier, it is very time consuming. I have videos on YouTube of how to do this, both taking it out of the plate carrier system and then, or installing and removing it when it comes down to it. So there is that content out there if you want to take a look at that more in depth. I just want you guys to see what that harness looks like in comparison, because it definitely makes this thing big, bulky. It definitely distributes the weight and it feels more comfortable, but I don't think it's worth it, and I think it's kind of a waste of money when it comes down to it, because there are better products out there. But overall configuration, when it comes to the plate carrier itself, you do have this pocket up at the top like the JPC. It is much wider, so you can fit more in there if you're going to run the MBAV plate bags. I would recommend that you don't run the MBAV plate bags. If you're going to configure an AVS plate carrier, use the swimmer cut. The swimmer cut will give you a more comfortable setup. It will feel a little bit more like the JPC. And you still have that pocket up here at the top. So I would recommend going with that over the MBAV plate bags and the other plate bag that's out there. You do have Velcro here for patches and all that stuff. You have the MOLLE. You do have these vertical loops to add buckles if you want to, so that way you can run removable panels for your magazine stuff. But you do also have that standard MOLLE like the JPC, where you can pass through the straps or the Velcro straps for the Cry Precision panels. They'll go up and through the top, like I said earlier, and then down into that big plate pocket, or that big Velcro pocket, and then lock into place down in there. And again, just to reiterate, use cardboard or plastic or whatever to keep the Velcro separated, so that way you can get the Velcro exactly where you want it and properly install everything. But to reiterate, if you're going to run those panels, run them up and over into the top of this MOLLE section and then down in. If you don't do that, that whole panel is going to sit really low and it's going to look weird, and you're going to notice the weight not really working with you when your mags are fully loaded, and it's exhausting. I've seen guys get pretty worn out running really, really long distances because their mags weren't properly set up on their kit. So and or the mag panel completely came off of the actual plate carrier. So just something to think about. Your MOLLE cummerbund is, let's remove this real quick, going to more than likely be the divided section ones like I was talking about earlier. So when you're looking at this plate carrier, and the divided cummerbund is this same concept in the AVS as it is the SPC. You do have this piece of Tigrease material that is going to run through the entire strap, on every strap, and or section of the cummerbund, and it's going to divide it to an exterior out here and then an interior right here. So you're going to have two sections to where you can pass pouches and accessories and all that stuff. So you can run side plate pockets plus radios on the interior, and then you can run, you know, different types of pouches on the exterior depending on what your needs and mission requirements and all of that are. So that is one feature that I really like about the AVS cummerbund over, you know, the JPC one that's currently being sold, I believe, with it. This cummerbund is much more efficient, much more practical when it comes down to it. So if you have the ability to piecemeal it all together, I would definitely make sure that you're getting that divided cummerbund. You do lose the little strap handle things on the actual Velcro portions. Not a big deal, but they are nice because it does make getting the plate carrier on and off a lot easier. With that kind of sums up the front of the plate carrier minus the failure point. So when you're looking at the failure points of the plate carrier itself, and again, this is like I talked about with the JPC, these stitch points right here. So this stitch point is the only thing that is holding these shoulder straps into place. There isn't anything in the interior of the plate carrier that is really holding them in place, and this is one of the biggest failure points for this plate carrier, as well as this buckle. When you look at some of the combative stuff that the military does, this buckle breaks all the time. You can replace it's a very custom modification, but you can replace this buckle with a Cobra buckle. You do have to have it. You do have to take the plate carrier in to have it like re-sewn together to do that. But you can, and that's mostly just the shoulder strap portion. You can cut the stitching out in the shoulder strap in the Velcro. Remove this buckle, put the Cobra buckle female portion on, and then you put the male portion on here at the bottom, and then that way you have a more robust and a little bit more indestructible, I guess you could say, buckle here. I have seen one person do it. It wasn't too expensive, but he did pay a little bit for the custom mod and taking the shoulder strap in to have that piece added to it. So I think it cost him like $50 maybe to do the whole thing. But that's just for the sewing portion. That's not including the Cobra buckle, and I believe the Cobra buckle cost him roughly about $50 to $60 or something like that. So, but when it comes down to it, combatives, this buckle always breaks, and I have seen the stitching get blown out in combatives as well as just military use and boost tactical environments. These stitch points for the shoulder straps blow out, and they're the first things that blow out on this entire plate carrier. I've seen a handful of guys be, you know, running around in Afghanistan, and these blew out, and they were shit out of luck, and they had to essentially buy a new plate carrier for the rest of the deployment because they couldn't get new plate carriers out there. So it sucks. I don't like that about this plate carrier system because over time they go out, and they're the first thing to go out. But that's essentially the front of the plate carrier. Moving to the back of the plate carrier, you do have your zipper panel zippers on here, which is nice. So you can integrate all of those zippers. You have your standard MOLLE across the entire back of the plate carrier. And then for me, and just kind of like I guess you could say even a sneak peek of how I usually set all of these plate carriers up, regardless of the configuration. I inboard a lot of my communication stuff and tubular nylon, shotgun lanyards, specific tool pouches and all that. I'll run that on the interior, and then I'll run the panel on the exterior, and if I can find it again. This panel will sit on the exterior of the plate carrier itself, and then you'll be able to run additional pouches and accessories specific to your mission, occupation, and duty position, and operational environment. So these panels make it really nice to be able to adapt everything, and then you inboard specific stuff that's a little bit more, you could say, permanent to your kit on the interior, and then your adaptable stuff is to the exterior. So adaptability wise, this is still a really good plate carrier. You can do a lot with it, but there's just a lot of excessive stuff when it comes to how much you can end up spending on this plate carrier. For the JPC in that configuration, I want to say it's like $250, $300 just right out of the box. When it comes to the AVS, you can spend the upwards of like $1,000 or more trying to configure this plate carrier exactly how you want it. And that's like getting into the cummerbunds, the back panels, the types of plate bags that you want to go with, and a couple of other accessories. So it is a lot, to a degree, a little bit more customizable. However, it can be very, very expensive. But like the front of the plate carrier, these back portions are susceptible to blowing out. They're a little bit less prone to it compared to the front, but I have seen the stitching start to blow out on these as well. So something to think about when you're comparing and trying to figure out which product you want to purchase. The AVS shoulder strap portions are a huge failure point in my opinion, and there's a lot of facts and a lot of scenarios that I've seen play out to where it supports that when it comes down to it. So interior wise for this plate carrier, and if you want to run the harness systems, there is quite a bit going on the interior. There is a method to the madness when it comes to setting up your 3-strand moly cummerbund or 2-strand moly cummerbund to this plate carrier. There is also a method that you have to follow when it comes to integrating that suspension system or that black harness into the interior of this plate carrier. So quite a bit going on when it comes down to it. You can swap the buckle here over to the left and to the right depending on your dominant shoulder and all that, but when it comes down to it, I just don't feel like this plate carrier is worth the price tag that's associated with it, because although there's a lot of cool like knickknacks and features, again, you're kind of locked into that overt configuration, and that's really all you can really do with it. So because this thing has a massive profile, especially with that harness inside of here. This thing screams, I'm in the military and here I am, versus being able to adapt it to a more low profile kind of configuration. So that kind of sums it up when it comes to this plate carrier or the AVS. Cutaway systems wise, you don't really have that same benefit with the system like the JPS and like the SPC. I have seen guys don and doff their kit pretty quickly with this buckle and just tearing off one side of the cummerbund. So you can get out of it pretty quickly, but you can definitely get out of the JPC and the SPC a lot faster compared to this system. And if you have that harness system in there, it makes it even a little bit harder to take the JPC or the SPC. My goodness, it makes it harder to take the AVS off. So that is the AVS when it kind of comes down to it in just a general outline. So moving into this last one and really digging into the weeds. When it comes to this plate carrier, and I talk about it in the review that I've done that's just specific to this plate carrier, the SPC or the Airlight plate carrier is much more adaptable and compatible with a lot of aftermarket products. So for the adaptability piece, you can set this up as a very low vis concealable plate carrier, and then you can transfer it all the way over to the other end of the spectrum where you're doing that kind of full mission profile conventional SWAT configuration, if you want to call it that, to where you have the DAPS neck protector, the groin protector, and the back protector. So there is quite a bit that you can do with this, and you have that full range of capabilities when it comes down to it. You do sacrifice a few things. You don't have that little admin pocket up here at the top. You don't have the drag handle on the back side of the plate carrier as well. So you do sacrifice a few things. You can still run your back panels, which is nice. The tubular nylon is a good way to be able to drag people in and out if they're casualties and whatnot. So you can utilize and set that up on your kit to be able to supplement that loss for the drag handle on the back side. But kind of when it comes down to it, and to just get into the weeds, I guess, the cool thing about this plate carrier is it's a single piece of material that's cut for the plate bag, and then there's fewer sewing points. So what that means is your front plate bag and your rear plate bag are going to have essentially this PVC fabric material cut into a single plate portion, and then they laser cut the little bits of moly that you need for little accessories and all of that. So this is much less likely to fail on you. As you can see, for the shoulder straps, there are no stitch points, so these are not going to blow out like the JPC and the AVS plate carrier. So that's a huge selling point for me on this guy, in conjunction with the adaptability piece. As far as running just your traditional Cry Precision stuff, you still have that moly section right here for your magazine panels if you want to stick with just the Cry Precision stuff. So the way that those work, you'll pass it through the top of this moly section, or these laser cut moly slots, and then it will come through the bottom section and then just Velcro straight down into this large moly panel. So that makes it very easy to be able to integrate just the older systems, especially if you have a lot of that equipment laying around and you're wanting to potentially purchase this guy. It does transfer over very well. With that, the compatibility piece that I talked about, I'm going to set this up for my wife with the Shaw Concepts Elastic 556 magazine panel version 2, so you can run other stuff out there. I have the version 1 as well that works on this as well, or their original magazine panel that also works on here. The Spirit System stuff works on here. There's a handful of other products that I have that will all work on this plate carrier with the Velcro panel stuff on the back. And then the cool thing too here is you do have these little vertical loops, so if you want to run different buckles or connectors for your panels, you can definitely do that as well. So you have a lot of adaptability when it comes to, or compatibility when it comes to aftermarket products. The JPC and the AVS are fairly compatible, but there are a few things out there that I have noticed. You know, guys purchased certain products. I can't remember who they were exactly or where they purchased them from, but they had to kind of rig and work around some of the things that weren't as compatible. So something to think about. With that, the cool thing with this is you also have this like channel in the middle of this, so when it comes to the cummerbunds, it does lock into place like so, and that secures that cummerbund in place. There are some elastic ones that Cry makes that I do believe go with this as well. You can run 3 strands, you can run the 2 strands. It'll be entirely up to you on how you want to configure all of that stuff, but you can run the different panel or the different cummerbunds with it. For the bottom of the plate carrier, you do have this section of moly, so if you do want to integrate things like those little dangler pouches, the groin protectors, so on and so forth, anything that you could possibly hang from the bottom of the plate carrier, you can do it from this section of moly right here. And it is Velcro as well, so if you want to Velcro a tourniquet pouch or whatever in there as well, you can definitely do that as in addition to it, or whatever other equipment that you may need on the front of your plate carrier. So that pretty much sums up the front of the plate carrier minus your cutaway handles. So like the JPC, you do have the same handles. If you need to cut this away, all you're going to do is run that strap, configure it to where it will cut away properly, and then when you need to cut away, you just pull hard on this little handle and it will pull that entire strap apart and just fall right off your body. So that is nice with that. Do be careful though, same thing with the shoulder straps, sleeves and pads and all of that. If you do purchase those to kind of make this more comfortable, make sure you're purchasing one that isn't going to lock the Velcro into the Velcro of the shoulder strap pad to where you can't cut the plate carrier away. I have seen that happen. It was pretty funny. The dude was still able to cut the plate carrier away, but he had to force it quite a bit, and blew out some stitching in one of the handles when he did it. So just be aware of that. For the cummerbunds, the cool thing with these guys, like the AVS, they do have that divider in there, so you do have inward moly sections and outward moly sections to run interior pouches and exterior pouches on the cummerbund. So really nice feature. You also have Velcro on it. I don't know, to be completely honest, what I would throw in there, but or what I would Velcro into the interior of the cummerbund, but it is there, so if you do need it, you can utilize it. There's something else I was going to say about the cummerbund, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So if it comes back to me, we'll go over it. Moving on to the back side of the plate carrier. I will say this, setting up this cummerbund is a little bit more involved. I think I briefly mentioned it with the JPC when I was talking through it. You do have these sections and slots on the back side, or on the sides of the back plate bag, where the cummerbund can go in there. And then you do also have the ability to run the strap here through the bottom of the plate carrier. I know EOD Fish is a huge supporter of Cry Precision, and he gets into some of the nitty-gritty details about how to set this guy up and how to shift things up and down. Just realize, you know, when you're setting up your plate carrier and all of that, take the time, make sure that you're setting it up to where it's comfortable. Adjust your cummerbund up or down, up or down, so that way it's comfortable and it's properly fitting you and your body. I know one thing that he talked about, and I didn't talk about when I was doing the review of this, but he didn't like having this set up kind of in the configuration that I have it set up, because it may just be for him, it may also be for other people. The rear plate bag kind of situated weirdly on the back, so he pushed the cummerbund down a little bit to be able to compensate for that and push the back plate bag and back plate a little bit further back up on his back, and it was a lot more comfortable for him, from what I remember in his video. But like I said, regardless of where you want to throw the cummerbund, whether it's a 2-strand or a 3-strand, take the time, make sure that you're setting it up properly so that way it comfortably fits you and protects you and the heart, lungs, and liver when it comes to these hard plates. So when it comes to the back plate panels, all of those still work together with this. So if you're transferring a lot of stuff over from another plate carrier, it will integrate all of that stuff as well. You do have a little bit of Velcro on the back, so if you want to throw patches and stuff, I know for law enforcement they usually have, you know, police patches on the front and the back and the sides and the DAPs and so on and so forth. You do have that capability with this guy. The JPC does have it as well, but typically, usually what I see with guys running the JPC is they almost always have a back panel on, so it covers that up, so they kind of lose that. Where this guy is a little bit easier to work with it. And then the AVS has it, but it always gets covered up. I've never seen somebody have that completely exposed. So with that, pretty sure that kind of sums it all up, minus the interior. So just real quick, talking about those stitch points. You can definitely see it in here, in the PV. You can definitely see it on this side because of the PVC reflective side. So when it comes to those stitch points, as you can see, there are no stitch points on the front or the back plate bag, so you don't have to worry about that stuff blowing out. And then when it comes to the stitching for the rest of the plate carrier, so the top of the plate bag here, I do know there are essentially 2 running lines, or there might actually just be one. I have to look at it again. Yes, it is 1 stitch line, but it is reinforced. So across the entire top of this plate bag, you have essentially a reinforced stitch line that goes all the way across, compared to some of the other plate carriers where you only kind of had 1. There is also another stitch point. It's not connected to the front of the plate bag or that PVC fabric material, but there is another stitch line across here to kind of reinforce and make sure that everything stays together. So you have that 1 stitch point on the front and the back of the plate carrier for the top of the plate bag, and then the only other stitch points that are on the plate carrier itself is going to be these vertical running ones that are going to connect the elastic and the mesh together, and those are pretty well reinforced when it comes down to it. No issues with that. One of the guys that I know that's been running this plate carrier pretty much since it came out has not had a single issue with any of it when it comes down to it. I looked through his plate carrier pretty thoroughly just to see if there were any failure points with the stitching, and I didn't see anything at all. So I definitely think this thing really crushes it when it comes to preventing those areas that could possibly blow out in the stitching, like the JPC and the AVS have issues with. So For the bottom of the plate bag pocket though, it is pretty simple and straightforward. You just have this open flap that opens up. You slide the plate in and then Velcro it back together. I know with the JPC is pretty simple. I know with the AVS, depending on the AVS plate bag you get, whether it's the MBAV or the shooter's cut, there's one of the other ones, I can't remember which one it is. But with those, with how the soft body integrates into, especially the AVS, you can feel the plate shift a little bit inside of the plate carrier, where the JPC and the SPC, you definitely don't feel that. So that's something to be aware of as well. You can have a little bit of plate shift with the AVS, and it can be very annoying because, I mean, for me, I like that plate being locked into position, and I don't like feeling that plate slide inside of my plate carrier or body armor. So with that, to close this up, since this is a long video, this is definitely the plate carrier that I would recommend, especially if you're trying to work on like a budget, because you can scale this thing in so many different ways, to that low vis concealment configuration, to that full mission profile, full battle rattle, and you can build that up over time, or you can just buy it all out at once, depending on, you know, what you're capable of at the time of purchase. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this plate carrier above all of the other Cry Precision products. And Cry Precision definitely is, I don't work with Cry. I don't really wear anything from Cry Precision anymore, minus a couple of their pouches and the apparel that they have for work. I've just purchased some of their products I've purchased enough of their products over the years to have a pretty good understanding of what they can and can't do. And I honestly still to this day prefer my tier plate carrier over even the SPC, but I do have this SPC both for my wife and I to be able to run around with and train with, and she'll use this more for duty application, where I'll just use it for training. So and in the future I may purchase another one of these to be able to, you know, get even more into the weeds with it and better understand its capabilities and its range when it comes down to it. So keep an eye out for any of those videos that may come out in the future. But with that, I'm going to close it up and leave it at that. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I will answer those questions and I'll help you out in any way that I can. If I don't have the answer, I will divert those questions over to EOD Fish, who has a lot of experience with the Cry stuff as well. And with that, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.